77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts, including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Who did we gain our independence from?
What? George Washington?
What year did we gain our independence from Great Britain?
In 1492.
What was the name of the war that won us our independence?
The Civil War? World War II. One. I don't know. I didn't pay attention in history.
Who won the Revolutionary War?
South.
Who was the first president of the United States? How many letter A's are in the word independence?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know how to spell that. So I'm going to say 3?
A-E-N-D-A-N-C.
Oh, you're the English teacher. I'm so embarrassed.
What do Americans celebrate on the 4th of July?
That was what we call in the business an MOS, a man on the street, or in this case a WOS, a WAS, woman on the street for most of them, actually on a beach enjoying, I suppose, the 4th of July celebrations around this great country of ours. And I saw that today and said, yeah. All of them, by the way, young, except including the English teacher who didn't know how to spell the word independence. James Golden, Snerdley with you here on this July the 4th, Independence Day in America, 249 years old by the official count. And welcome, my friends, to the fastest hour in American media. With us today, we are pleased. He is our official historian. He is an expert at American history, and he is the principal at historyauthor.com, where you can go to find, for those of you that care and are literate about history, what's happening in the world of history. He's also a columnist with the New York Sun, great writer, former web producer with the Rush Limbaugh program, the most widely listened to radio phenomena that ever existed. Our very own Dean Karayanis is with us. On this Independence Day, good afternoon, Dean.
Good afternoon, Gus. I love your intros. They make me taller. I'm already tall enough, but I'm not going to be able to get through doorways. You're so kind. Thank you.
Well, here we are. It is the 4th of July, Dean. I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal opinion page. I don't know whether it was today. It was entitled "When We Started to Become Americans," and it highlights that it was 250 years ago this weekend that George Washington began to meld men from different colonies into an American army, and met the man who would become perhaps his most valuable officer. And it goes on from there that this is the week that we, quote unquote, started to become Americans, because it was the formation, of course, of that Continental Army that led to this country being created. And this was the week that Washington also met Nathaniel Greene, who would manage the brilliant campaign in the South that led to the triumph of the Revolutionary War, which some of the people on the beach enjoying the holiday could not identify or even come close to what year any of this happened. What are your thoughts as we now enter another weekend, this one the 249th, where you have the party of old slavery, Democrats still hanging on. People are going to die. Millions of people will die. There was a poll today. There was a poll recently that highlights the difference in patriotism between Democrats and Republicans. It's astounding. And so what are your thoughts as we are here on the 249th anniversary of the acknowledged signing of the Declaration of Independence? It was actually signed the night before. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, there's so much about this holiday, and I wish everybody shared our passion, but that's our job, to share it with people and get them going. I've written 3 columns at the New York Sun in the past few days about this, including one about Mel Gibson's The Patriot, and about the movie, because it's 25 years old this year. This is its 25th Independence Day weekend.
I saw that. You know, I remember when I first saw that movie, Mel Gibson's The Patriot. I'm glad you did a comment on it. It actually blew my mind. It was really, it was just an incredible movie.
Yeah, it's something you don't usually see. Usually we see the big set pieces, and you see a Washington, or you see the drama at what became Independence Hall, but you don't see the South much. That takes place in South Carolina. Fictionalized, of course, and originally they were going to do a documentary on the Swamp Fox, and then who Mel Gibson's character is based on, and then they started looking at him, and they said, "Oh, gee, that guy had some personal problems that are just going to detract from it," and so they made an idealized version. But knowing that, it helps people, especially when you look at the poll you mentioned and the man on the street. And I always give man on the street people a break. We used to have our buddy Brian do those in the old days at the Rush Limbaugh television show, and you get people feel like they have to answer you. I always feel a little bad for those montages, but the polls don't lie about how little people know. The Cato Institute has a poll every July 4th that Morning Consult does, and 53% of Americans don't know why we declared independence at all. That's more than half, obviously, although maybe we don't know math either. I struggle. But going back to your theme, I had a column that was before the Wall Street Journal, which is why you should all absolutely go to nysun.com, because I'm ahead of everybody. I learned something all those years with Rush. And I wrote a very similar column, though, in the same spirit, and that was when Washington gets the Declaration of Independence, and he puts out the word in Lower Manhattan, and he says, "I'm going to read this, and I'm going to tell you what they settled on in Philadelphia, and I'm going to make my case for why this war is necessary." And Washington, who was not known as a fiery orator, he was not a guy who would move you with his words. He had other ways of leading. He was functional, but he wasn't a man of great letters and great verbosity. And so he reads it on July 9th, 1776, at what is now City Hall Park, was called the Commons then. And these soldiers, civilians, the Sons of Liberty, all of these people listening, they get whipped into such a patriotic fervor that they storm over to Bowling Green Park, and because they say that's the last place there's any king in the city, where they tear down the statue of King George III. And I think that is a testament, and that's what I write about here in my Sun column, that the Declaration of Independence is what Lincoln turns to rather than the Constitution, which is silent on secession, and of course makes concessions to the slaveholding states to get them to sign on to the Union. Lincoln reaches all the way back to the Declaration when it comes time to preserve the Union and make his case, because that language is so moving. And when you think about it, it starts with the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident," which means, hey, this is pretty obvious. This is probably a boring thing. Everybody knows this. And yet it starts with that, and it kindles something new. And this is what connects to that column you mentioned in the Wall Street Journal. I said it kindled something new, the American spirit. People listened to Jefferson's words as spoken by Washington, and they listen to them still today, even though it was basically just our 2 weeks' notice to Great Britain saying, we're out of here. We think we should be our own country. Get out and we'll fight for it.
I love it.
It's odd.
Dean, I also love the way you just framed that. Our 2-week notice, our severance notice to Great Britain. And this is one of the reasons why, Dean, I just absolutely adore what you do in terms of history .com and this emphasis that we have on history. You know, I came across, I'm trying to remember where, I came across a quote that is almost 100 years old from Calvin Coolidge. And by the way, that guy's not even, you ask most people who Calvin Coolidge is, they give you like the deer in the headlights look. Who? What? And people don't even realize if there was a predecessor to Reagan, in my view, I don't know about yours, it would be Calvin Coolidge.
Absolutely. In fact, he wanted to hang his picture, and he hung his picture. He loved when he got to the White House Reagan, because he was a mentor. I
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Anyway, it was he was in Philadelphia in 1926. I found it again at Wall Street Journal, believe it or not. Okay, and one of the things that he said, as for the Declaration of Independence, I'm reading from this article. We celebrate this weekend. In 1926, President Calvin Coolidge came to Philadelphia to celebrate the 150th anniversary. And this is what he said. It was not because it was proposed to establish a new nation, but because it was proposed to establish a nation on new principles, that July the 4th, 1776, has come to be regarded as one of the greatest days in history. And that was, to me, that's just a pretty profound line, whether you celebrate the day or not.
6% in that poll are with you and do not celebrate the 4th, by the way. The Cato poll. I made a note of it.
You made a note of it. Well, yeah. You know, it's not that I don't acknowledge it, and I don't acknowledge, and it's not that I don't acknowledge the profundity of it, and it's not that I'm not glad for it and happy about it. I think we've discussed all of this before. We've discussed pretty much everything, but we bring it fresh for everybody here. It's fresh to everybody listening. So yeah,
thanks
for those. What we're dancing around is that I don't really celebrate. I don't go all out with the whole fireworks. Which, by the way, New York Times today has an article about how horrible it's going to be next year because of Trump's tariffs, and nobody's going to be able to afford fireworks anymore, and everybody's going to have their 4th of July ruined next year because that damn Donald Trump and his damn tariffs. So anyway,
well, you don't have hamburgers and hot dogs either. There's no. What would you barbecue? You can't barbecue kale. You can't have a nice juicy kale burger. So it's halloumi cheese. That's a good Greek cheese for you. Good Cypriot.
I love halloumi cheese.
Yeah, that you can.
Okay,
barbecue.
and I'll just have you know, by the way, there are plenty of other things that one can barbecue besides carcasses of dead animals. I'm just saying, not that I'm trying to suggest how people should eat or not. I believe in freedom and liberty. That's what this country is all about.
And in mocking and teasing, and it's basically a forest fire is your barbecue. It's just a bunch of trees and weeds burning down, and maybe can't you let a rabbit find the slowest rabbit that gets burned in a fire? That would be much better. But no.
Oh my God! There you go. What an awful thought.
I know. Hey, I'm committed. I'm committed to it. I see Bugs Bunny. He gets it.
And if you've never had barbecued grape leaves, my friend, you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah. I mean, can you spell my last name freehand on the air? You know I've had grape leaves. A Greek name like this? Come on. I know he's.
I said barbecued grape leaves. And by the way, Carlos, too, is a compatriot of yours. Barbecued grape leaves. We got to take a break.
I'm sorry. I talk too much at the time.
No, you don't. Stay right there.
The Rush Hour with James Golden
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It is Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, July 4th. America, 249 years old. Dean Karayanis, historyauthor.com, New York Sun columnist, is with us. Dean, you asked me for this bumper music. You told me there's a story behind it.
Yeah, you take requests, which is nice. I appreciate it. But yes, this song was not written at all by the great team of Elton John and Bernie Taupin to talk about freedom, or even though it came out in 1975, it was written about Billie Jean King and her professional tennis team, because her and Elton John were friends. Only lasted one season, did the Philadelphia Freedom, but they were a real professional tennis team. And, I imagine Sir Elton asking Bernie, hey, can you write a song about tennis? And Bernie Taupin said, and this is a quote, I can't write a song about tennis. So he dug instead into that Philadelphia sound, and he came up with a song that, because it was timed with the centennial, people just always assumed was about America and patriotism, and then people thought that maybe it was an anthem for other causes that Elton John was favorable to. But no, it's really just a love letter to Billie Jean King and to her. But it's a great song, and I enjoyed it, and Philadelphia, all eyes are on them right now and for the next year, I guess, because that's where America was born in so many ways, with the Declaration of Independence.
Wow. I never knew. I always assumed that this song was about Philadelphia freedom, the Declaration, what took place in Philadelphia now 249 years ago. Dean Karayanis is with us. He's going to stick around. When we get back, we're going to delve into the politics of the beautiful big bill and more. America's fastest hour in media underway. Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Keep it right here. Do not go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I hear they're holding a ceremony so that he can sign this big, beautiful bill into law. Do you think it's going to be outside? No, they wouldn't. But, on the 4th of July, be a cool time to do it. If anyone's, on the fence, we would support you. 100%. That'd be real nice.
Whoever does do, all of them at once rather than just the one. I mean, the one would be great, but, every one of them, all at the same time, that would be way better. Just as a group discount or something, you know what I mean? Whoever does it, I hope they do all of them at once rather than just the one. I mean, the one would be great, but every one of them, all at the same time, that would be way better. Just as a group discount or something, you know what I mean?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That is what some members on American... We've got more of that. I've got minutes and minutes and minutes of the same theme. People wishing. In some cases, one young girl volunteers. She's ready if she has the opportunity. I hope the Secret Service gets hold of that. But that's what some of the left are wishing for. James Golden Snerdley with you here. Dean Karayanis is with us, historyauthor.com. Also, Dean and I work together on the Rush Limbaugh program with a great, great, great staff. We were part of a great staff there. Dean, the big, beautiful bill. I have seen so much, and there is so much going on today with the passage of that bill. Some of it you might expect. James Carville, I'm not going to play, we have it, a 4-minute, 41-second rant from James Carville suggesting that this should be the central issue for Democrats in 2026 midterm elections. What do you think about that analysis from Carville?
Well, I have to say, we all on our side, which I'll call, and I don't mean the Republican side, because I think there's too many folks out there that think they're just arms of the RNC now, which we certainly never were with Rush. But I think we want, as fiscal conservatives, as people who realize you can't spend more than you earn all the time, people who revere people like Calvin Coolidge, who kept spending down when he was president. We don't want to see all that spending, but we also recognize what I quoted in one of my New York Sun columns a few weeks ago, Otto von Bismarck, when Elon Musk was freaking out over this bill. And he said, politics is the art of the possible. And unfortunately, trying to get them to cut spending, you know how they are. They kick it down the road, kick it down the road, kick it down the road. They're not going to cut the spending right now, certainly, probably not ever. So what we're going to have to do, the only other option is grow your way out of it. You know, if you're a family and your wife and kids or your husband has a gambling problem and they need dialysis or whatever it is, what are you going to do? If you can't cut those items, you can't cut the spending, even if it's frivolous, even if you want to, you're going to have to grow your way out of it. And I think Carville, hoping that it's going to crash and burn, some might dare say he's hoping for President Trump to fail or for his policies to fail.
Can you imagine that? Mm-hmm.
But think about it. In 2017, the CBO predicted disaster from the Trump tax cuts. They missed what the revenues would be by $2.3 trillion with a T dollars. And they always miss that. They always score the tax cuts in a static way. They never think
instead of a dynamic way. This is an argument that we have been having in this country. Look, the idea that this country is, and I don't want to get too in the weeds today. I went in the weeds the other day with this on this baseline budgeting nonsense. And apparently the Senate adopted another score in the way that they did their scoring, which I hope becomes permanent, but that's in the weeds stuff. The idea that we could finally grow our way out of some of these things, and the CBO, which the Congressional Budget Office, this isn't the first time they've been wrong. They've been consistently wrong about things.
They always are. Think about it. If you have a business, I think an easy way that's not in the weeds, and I understand what you mean because we like to go in the weeds. Some of us like to even graze on the weeds, and that includes Greeks because a lot of our spices are weeds. But anyway, is you think of a business, right? You think of a restaurant, since we're talking about that, to continue. You slash the price on your early bird special. And you say, well, is that going to lose you money? No, because you get more people to come in. This is the idea behind tax cuts. More people, you sell more volume, less of your food is going to spoil. You get more customers. They decide maybe I'll get a drink while I'm here because you brought them in with the cheaper happy hour food. And this is how the economy as a whole works, where with Reagan, he cut taxes. He almost doubled the size of the economy in 8 years. And JFK had done the same thing before. We've heard many times that speech that he gave to the Economic Club of New York when he uses that famous metaphor.
The rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
exactly right. Well, let me just do this because time is running short. This is the fastest hour in American media. I want to play you some audio bites and play the audience some of the reactions that people are having and have you just give a brief comment after each one. Let's start with one of our old favorites. She's no longer on PMS DNC. Joy Reid, they threw her out of there, but she's doing her own thing now. And she had on Representative Pramila Jayapal on her Joy Reid wine-a-thon, and this is what they came up with.
On the DHS part, this is really important because this big bad betrayal bill is not disconnected from what we're seeing with immigration on the streets. It actually supercharges ICE's activities in terrorizing local communities, in kidnapping and disappearing and deporting immigrants across this country. Right now, for ICE detention, we spend about $3.5 billion. The big bad betrayal bill increases that number to $45 billion. $45 billion from $3.5 billion. So across the board, and then there's separate money for ICE agents, for any number of pieces of the transportation, the deportation, all of that. So it is really essentially saying if whatever you see right now, Joy, multiply that by 10 to 12 times. That's what we're going to start seeing in terms of ICE agents terrorizing, disappearing, kidnapping immigrants, deporting them to third countries, holding them in incarceration facilities. These are jails now. These are not really civil detention centers, which is what they're supposed to be.
I mean, concentration camps.
That's enough. Dean, what do you think about all that?
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that jumps out at me is trying to rebrand the big, beautiful bill, which Chuck Schumer was taking a victory lap the other day because he said he struck the name and put in a resolution. And you're going against Donald Trump, who is a master of branding things, and they're going to try to make it some evil, horrible name. Big Bad Betrayal Bill is not going to stick. It was out of my brain the second she said it, and fortunately she said it again, so I was able to write it down so that I could repeat it to all of you fine people in the audience. But this is like trying to arm wrestle Superman here. This is the guy's talent, and they don't recognize it. He's also a master marketer, and you're going to try to outmarket it with all this usual doom and gloom and horror stories, and also pitch it to people who aren't voting. And they can try to also rebrand, which they've been very successful with.
Now, let me just say something, Dean. There are people that are genuinely frightened, and I can't play them all. I've been watching these things since last night. There are people that are genuinely frightened because they watch the media and they've been told what is going to happen. For instance, Cut 15, Carlos. This is a reaction, and its variations of the theme are all over the place on social media today.
I'm in shock, and I haven't been able to get on here. The last few days have been torturous. I've been doing everything, calling, emailing, everything I can. Today, my rare disease community are going to die. Lots and lots of my friends are going to die because of Medicaid. Once they start cutting Medicare, I'm going to die. And I don't know what to do, and I can't do anything. And then on top of the sexual he got off. What's the point? What's the point anymore? I'm going to die. I'm going to die in my rare disease community. And I've done everything in my power. I've written, I've emailed, I've done everything forever. And there's nothing we can do. This is insane. We're going to die. My rare disease family is going to die. I'm going to die.
Listen, before we get to him, what do you think? This is, and Dean, there are people who honestly believe this, and I'm not making fun of them, and I'm not going to make fun of them. They believe this.
Yeah, they've been really scared. This makes me think of Poltergeist. I know only lame hosts go to movies all the time, but it makes me think of Poltergeist. They all believe the old man and bury themselves in the ground because they think the end times is coming. And it turns out the day comes and goes that he predicts for the end, and it doesn't happen. And so anybody can be susceptible to that. And now you look at Threads. I go to Threads just because it's an amazing window into the way folks like this lady think. And as a human being, you get to that higher level, as you're saying, which is your obligation. You're not somebody who's just going to mock people. These are human beings who've been so badly misled. But I would encourage them. She says, I've done everything in my power. Well, people are free still to pay for other people if they want to. You can ask people. You can go to your neighbors. So something that Rush used to say, right? Nobody would ever go to their neighbor and say, hey, can you pay my medical bills? I'm making a collection. And yet they're happy to have the state come and do it and take it from you. And in any case, these things are just not going to come to pass. Michael Crichton said, there's nothing so sobering as a 30-year-old newspaper. We've heard this doom and gloom constantly for our entire lives, and these things, how many of them really ever come to pass?
First of all, on the Medicaid, Dean, on the Medicaid thing, number one, most of the provisions don't go into effect for over a year. They don't. That's number one. Number two, there are no real cuts. Once again, we are all using the word cuts when what we're talking about is a slower rate of growth.
Yeah.
Next year, Medicare will be spending more money than this year. The year after that, they will be spending more money than the year before. What is being talked about now is, number one, getting people who should not be on the rolls because they're ineligible for it under the way it was supposed to be adjudicated. Number two is slowing the rate of growth in these by careful management of it. I saw a doctor whining and moaning about the fact that children are going to be, she's running for Lindsey Graham, as it turns out, in South Carolina. But this absolute fear-mongering, and people are buying it and have bought it, which, by the way, I think is why it would be a good idea if Democrats use this as their 2026 campaign, so that finally, in the face of what will be a profoundly growing economy, some of these lies can be dispelled.
Yeah, I think they have to just get over this idea of bashing every single thing the guy does and being complete and total reactionaries. And it's fun to be able to call other people reactionaries after being called that many times. But they have to realize this is something that Doug Schoen, who obviously was key in the Clinton reelection campaign, said to me for one of my columns. He said, when the Republicans took over Congress, we found ways we could work with them, and they passed things like welfare reform, which had also, guess what, work requirements. Nobody was out there screaming, this is going to kill people. Certainly not, I am going to die, as this lady said. People understood, well, this is something that makes sense. If you're able-bodied, not only should you be working, but it's better for you to get up, get out there, and find a job. And now, by the way, there's many more jobs becoming available because guess what? It goes hand in hand with getting all of the people that these companies are hiring and that are coming here to work for people and cut lawns and do all these things that people would rather pay somebody slave wages, never worry about them making an OSHA complaint, never worry about them filing for unemployment and pay them off the books. Well, those jobs are opening up now. And so people are finding jobs. And that's the idea that work is something horrible when it's really something key is also missing here, because they're just hair on fire 24/7 about anything and everything that Trump does.
Absolutely. Dean, thank you so much. I want to just suggest to Democrats, I rarely do investment advice, but I'm going to leave you, Dean, with this thought and leave this thought to Democrats out here who are listening. Perhaps you might want to consider investing in diapers. In diapers. I say that because Speaker Johnson let something out of the bag earlier today, and diapers might be the best thing for Democrats at this point. Speaker Johnson.
The reconciliation bill today was a big, giant leap forward. Yeah. But we're going to do this again. We're going to have a second reconciliation package in the fall and a third one in the spring of next year for the next 2 fiscal years. And we're going to have rescissions packages. The White House is sending us collections of items to claw back the spending that was wasted in fraud, waste, and abuse, and we're going to appropriate at lower levels. The Republican Party is the party to get us back to fiscal responsibility. We can't do it overnight, though, Raymond. It took us a while to get in this situation, but we are on the right track, and the president is committed to it as well.
More to come. Dean, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Have a happy 4th of July Independence Day, everybody.
Thank you, Dean Karayanis, my friends, historyauthor.com, the New York Sun. You can catch Dean, his great work. James Golden, Snerdley here. America's fastest hour in media underway. Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Tomorrow, looking forward to catching up with Princess Di, with America's small caffeinated mom, Rhonda Schrock, with Lizzie, our very own Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen Young, all of it on the Saturday Morning Vibe. James Golden, Snerdley, Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
How anyone can look at a facility to lock people up and say, if you try to leave, the alligators are going to eat you, and smile about it. And think they're somehow the good guys. I'm so fed up of people defending this and calling themselves Christians while they do it. Because what the happened to love your neighbor? What the happened to do unto others as you would have them do to you? I'm angry. And I'm hurt, and I don't know what to do. Yeah.
Well, it's... And that we've shared love and done love It's not enough. It's not Rico, it's Frico. It's not Rico. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. July 4th. Thank you for being with us. God bless and protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me and allowing me to be with you. God willing, we are back tomorrow morning for the Saturday Morning Vibe. Expecting to hear from Princess Diana. Can't wait. America's small caffeinated mom, Rhonda Schrock, will be with us tomorrow. Your calls will be with us tomorrow. Our very own Lizzie Radabali will be with us tomorrow. All of that Saturday Morning Vibe. In the meantime, my friends, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.
Greg Kelly here for Colonial Metals Group, China's leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II, one that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/Kelly or call 800-655-5186 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.